The United Kingdom is a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary democracy, where the monarch serves as the ceremonial head of state and the government is headed by a prime minister. The UK's political system has evolved over centuries, balancing tradition with democratic principles, and remains one of the world's oldest continuous political systems. The system is characterized by its unwritten constitution, parliamentary sovereignty, and devolution of powers to Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and, to some extent, regional authorities in England. Constitutional framework. Unwritten constitution. Unlike many countries, the United Kingdom does not have a single, written constitution. Instead, its constitutional framework is based on several sources, including statutes, laws passed by Parliament, common law, legal precedents established by courts, conventions, unwritten practices, and authoritative texts. Key constitutional documents. Some key documents that form part of the UK's constitutional framework include the Magna Carta, 1215, the Bill of Rights, 1689, the Act of Union, 1707, the Parliament Acts, 1911 and 1949, and the Human Rights Act, 1998. These documents establish fundamental principles, such as the rule of law, parliamentary sovereignty, and the separation of powers. Parliamentary sovereignty. A central principle of the UK's constitution is parliamentary sovereignty, meaning that Parliament is the supreme legal authority and can make or repeal any law. This principle distinguishes the UK from many other democracies, where constitutional courts may have the power to strike down legislation. Rule of law. The rule of law is another key constitutional principle in the UK, ensuring that all individuals, institutions, and government entities are subject to and accountable under the law. The judiciary plays a critical role in upholding the rule of law, protecting citizens' rights, and ensuring government actions are lawful. Monarchy and the role of the monarch. Constitutional monarchy. The United Kingdom is a constitutional monarchy, where the monarch's powers are limited by the constitution, laws, and conventions. The monarch serves as the ceremonial head of state, representing national unity and continuity. The king's role and powers. The current monarch, King Charles III, exercises several formal powers, such as appointing the Prime Minister, granting royal assent to legislation, and representing the UK in diplomatic matters. However, these powers are largely symbolic, and the monarch acts on the advice of the government. The monarch's role also includes attending state functions, promoting national unity, supporting charitable causes, and fulfilling ceremonial duties. Succession and royal family. The line of succession to the British throne is determined by descent, religion, and parliamentary statute. The Act of Settlement, 1701, and the Succession to the Crown Act, 2013, establish rules for succession, ensuring that the monarchy remains Protestant and that succession is determined by birth order, regardless of gender. The royal family, including the monarch and close relatives, plays a significant role in British society and public life, engaging in charitable work, supporting cultural events, and representing the UK at home and abroad. Parliament and legislative process. The structure of Parliament. The UK Parliament is the supreme legislative body, responsible for making laws, scrutinising government policy, and debating national issues. It consists of two houses, the House of Commons and the House of Lords. House of Commons. The House of Commons is the lower house of Parliament and the primary legislative chamber. It is composed of 650 members of Parliament, MPs, each representing a geographical constituency. MPs are elected by the public in general elections, usually held every 5 years, using a first-past-the-post electoral system. The party, or coalition, with the most seats in the House of Commons forms the government, and its leader becomes the Prime Minister. House of Lords. The House of Lords is the upper house of Parliament and serves as a revising chamber. It consists of life peers, hereditary peers, and bishops of the Church of England. Life peers are appointed by the monarch on the advice of the Prime Minister, while hereditary peers have their titles passed down through generations, although their number is limited to 92. The House of Lords scrutinizes legislation passed by the Commons, suggests amendments, and reviews government actions, but its powers are limited. It cannot veto bills and can only delay legislation for up to 1 year. The Speaker of the House of Commons. The Speaker presides over the debates in the House of Commons, ensuring order and impartiality. The Speaker is elected by MPs and must remain politically neutral while serving in office. Legislative process. The legislative process in the UK involves several stages, where proposed laws, bills, are debated, scrutinised, and amended before becoming law. Introduction of bills. Bills can be introduced in either the House of Commons or the House of Lords. They are categorised as government bills, introduced by government ministers, or private members' bills, introduced by individual MPs or Lords. Most bills are government bills, reflecting the government's legislative agenda. Stages of a bill. The bill passes through several stages in both houses. First reading. The bill is introduced, and its title is read out. No debate occurs at this stage. Second reading. The general principles of the bill are debated, and a vote is taken. Committee stage. The bill is examined in detail by a committee of MPs or Lords, and amendments can be proposed. Report stage. The committee reports back to the House, and further amendments can be considered. Third reading. The final version of the bill is debated, and a vote is taken. House of Lords consideration. If the bill started in the Commons, it moves to the Lords for a similar process, and vice versa. Consideration of amendments. Both houses must agree on the final text. If disagreements persist, the bill may ping-pong between houses. Royal assent. Once both houses agree, the bill is sent to the monarch for royal assent. Once granted, it becomes law. Government structure and executive power. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet. The Prime Minister is the head of government and leads the executive branch, responsible for implementing laws, setting policies, and managing the country's day-to-day affairs. Role of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is usually the leader of the political party that has the most seats in the House of Commons after a general election. The Prime Minister appoints members of the Cabinet, oversees government departments, and represents the UK domestically and internationally. The Prime Minister's official residence and office are located at 10 Downing Street in London. The Cabinet. The Cabinet consists of senior ministers, most of whom are heads of government departments, such as the Chancellor of the Exchequer, responsible for economic and financial matters, the Foreign Secretary, the Home Secretary, and the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care. The Cabinet meets regularly to discuss and make decisions on government policy, coordinate activities, and resolve disputes. Cabinet committees. The Cabinet operates through a series of committees, each focusing on specific areas, such as national security, economic affairs, and health. These committees are composed of ministers and senior officials, allowing for more detailed consideration of policy issues. Government departments and civil service. Government departments are responsible for the implementation of government policy, public administration, and the delivery of public services. Key departments. The UK government consists of numerous departments, each led by a Secretary of State or Minister. Examples include the Home Office, responsible for immigration, security, and law enforcement, the Department for Education, the Department of Health and Social Care, and the Ministry of Defence. These departments are supported by professional civil servants who provide advice, implement policies, and manage public services. The Civil Service. The Civil Service is a politically neutral body that supports the government in formulating and implementing policy. Civil servants are employed based on merit and provide continuity between different administrations. The head of the Civil Service is the Cabinet Secretary, who works closely with the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. Political parties and electoral system. Major political parties. The UK has a multi-party political system, with several parties represented in Parliament. However, it is dominated by two major parties, the Conservative Party and the Labour Party. The Conservative Party, also known as the Tories, The Conservative Party is a centre-right political party that traditionally supports free market policies, a strong national defence, and individual responsibility. The party has been in government for much of the past century and is currently the ruling party, led by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. The Labour Party. The Labour Party is a centre-left political party founded on principles of social justice, equality, and workers' rights. It supports progressive taxation, public ownership of key services, and social welfare programmes. The Labour Party has formed several governments since World War II and is currently the main opposition party, led by Sir Keir Starmer. Other political parties. Several smaller parties play significant roles in UK politics, particularly at regional levels. The Liberal Democrats, a centrist party advocating for civil liberties, social justice, and electoral reform. The Scottish National Party, SNP, a centre-left party that seeks Scottish independence and greater autonomy within the UK. Plaid Cymru, the Party of Wales, which advocates for Welsh independence and the promotion of the Welsh language and culture. The Green Party focuses on environmental issues, social justice, and sustainable development. The Democratic Unionist Party, DUP, a right-wing party in Northern Ireland that supports maintaining Northern Ireland's union with the UK. Sinn Féin, a left-wing party in Northern Ireland that advocates for Irish reunification. Electoral system. The UK uses a variety of electoral systems for different types of elections. General elections. General elections for the House of Commons use the first-past-the-post, FPTP, system, where the candidate with the most votes in each constituency wins. This system tends to favour larger parties and often results in single-party majority governments. Local and regional elections. Local elections in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland often use FPTP, while the additional member system, AMS, is used for elections to the Scottish Parliament, the Senedd, Welsh Parliament, and the London Assembly. The Single Transferable Vote, STV, system is used for local elections in Scotland and Northern Ireland. European elections. Pre-Brexit, before Brexit, members of the European Parliament, MEPs, were elected using proportional representation in the UK. Devolution and regional governance. Devolution in the UK. Devolution refers to the delegation of powers from the central government in Westminster to the devolved administrations in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Each devolved government has varying degrees of legislative power and responsibility for specific areas, such as education, health, and transport. Scottish Parliament. The Scottish Parliament, established in 1999, has significant legislative powers in areas such as health, education, and justice, as well as limited tax-raising powers. The Scottish Government is led by a First Minister, currently Humza Yousaf, leader of the SNP. The Scottish Parliament also has the power to call for a referendum on independence, subject to UK government approval. Senedd, Welsh Parliament. The Senedd, established in 1999, has legislative authority in areas such as health, education, and local government. It can make laws and vary some taxes within Wales. The Welsh Government, led by a First Minister, is responsible for implementing policies and managing public services in Wales. Northern Ireland Assembly. The Northern Ireland Assembly, established under the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, has legislative powers over areas such as health, education, and justice. The power-sharing arrangement requires cooperation between Unionist and Nationalist parties. The Northern Ireland Executive, led by a First Minister and Deputy First Minister, governs in a partnership model. Regional governance in England. England does not have a devolved parliament or assembly. However, some areas have directly elected mayors or combined authorities with powers over transport, housing, and economic development. The Greater London Authority, GLA, for example, has an elected mayor and assembly responsible for governing London. Judiciary and legal system. Structure of the judiciary. The UK has a complex legal system, which includes separate legal systems for England and Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. The judiciary is independent of the executive and the legislature. upholding the rule of law and protecting individual rights. Supreme Court of the United Kingdom. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the UK and serves as the final court of appeal for civil and criminal cases. It was established in 2009, replacing the House of Lords as the highest judicial authority. The Supreme Court has the power to interpret and apply laws, resolve constitutional issues, and ensure that the government acts within its legal authority. Court structure in England and Wales. Below the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal handles appeals from lower courts, and the High Court deals with civil cases and judicial review. The Crown Court handles serious criminal cases, while magistrates' courts deal with minor criminal offences and some civil matters. Legal systems in Scotland and Northern Ireland. Scotland and Northern Ireland have their own legal systems, which are distinct from that of England and Wales. Scotland's legal system is based on a mixture of civil and common law, with its own courts, including the Court of Session, civil, and the High Court of Justiciary, criminal. Northern Ireland's legal system is similar to that of England and Wales, with the Court of Appeal and the High Court serving as the highest courts. Judicial independence and accountability. Judicial independence is a fundamental principle of the UK's legal system, ensuring that judges can make decisions free from political interference. Judges are appointed based on merit and are accountable to the law and judicial conduct guidelines. Recent political developments. Brexit and its aftermath. The UK's decision to leave the European Union, Brexit, following a 2016 referendum, has had significant political, economic, and social implications. Withdrawal from the EU. The UK formally left the EU on January 31, 2020, and entered a transition period until December 31, 2020. During this time, the UK and EU negotiated a trade and cooperation agreement that governs their future relationship. Impact on trade and immigration. Brexit has resulted in changes to trade, immigration, and regulatory frameworks. The UK is no longer part of the EU's single market and customs union, which has led to new customs checks, tariffs, and regulatory divergence. The government has introduced a new points-based immigration system, ending freedom of movement between the UK and the EU. Devolution and Brexit. Brexit has also affected the constitutional settlement within the UK, with tensions over devolved powers and concerns about Northern Ireland's status. The Northern Ireland Protocol, part of the Brexit deal, aims to prevent a hard border on the island of Ireland but has led to political disputes and instability. Scottish independence and Welsh devolution. The debate over Scottish independence has gained momentum since the 2014 independence referendum, in which 55% voted to remain in the UK. The SNP continues to advocate for a second referendum, arguing that Brexit and changing political dynamics justify another vote. Scottish independence referendum. The Scottish Government has sought the UK Government's permission for a second independence referendum, but this has been refused. The issue remains a contentious political debate, with discussions ongoing about Scotland's future within or outside the UK. Welsh devolution. In Wales, there are calls for further devolution of powers and greater autonomy. Plaid Cymru and some Welsh Labour members support increased devolution or independence, while others favour maintaining the current union structure. Political instability and leadership changes. The UK has experienced political instability and leadership changes in recent years, influenced by Brexit, the COVID-19 pandemic, and internal party dynamics. Leadership changes. The Conservative Party, in power since 2010, has seen several leadership changes, with David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, and now Rishi Sunak as Prime Ministers. These changes reflect internal divisions, public discontent, and shifting political landscapes. COVID-19 pandemic response. The COVID-19 pandemic posed unprecedented challenges to the UK government, requiring swift policy responses, economic support measures, and public health interventions. The government faced criticism over its handling of the pandemic, particularly in areas such as testing, lockdowns, and support for businesses and vulnerable populations. Human rights and social justice. The UK continues to engage in debates over human rights, social justice, and equality, influenced by both domestic and global issues. Human Rights Act and legal reforms. The government has considered changes to the Human Rights Act 1998, which incorporates the European Convention on Human Rights, ECHR, into UK law. Proposals to replace or amend the Act have sparked debate about the protection of rights and the relationship between UK courts and the European Court of Human Rights. Equality and diversity. Social movements, such as Black Lives Matter and Me Too, have raised awareness of issues related to race, gender, and inequality in the UK. The government and civil society organisations continue to work towards greater equality and inclusivity in areas such as employment, education, and criminal justice. The political structure and governance of the United Kingdom are complex, dynamic, and continually evolving. As the country navigates its post-Brexit future, addresses regional demands for greater autonomy, and confronts new challenges such as climate change, economic recovery, and social justice, the UK's political landscape will continue to be shaped by both tradition and change.